Welcome back to the Cyber Talent Matrix Live. I'm Dr. Sasha Vanterpool, joined by my co hosts, Jeff Welgan and Will Denman. Today, we are thrilled to welcome Rebekah Skeete, the Executive Director and CEO of BlackGirlsHack, to talk about the 2025 BlackGirlsHack Cyber Talent Study. This is a collaboration between skillrex and BGH that helps map competence, skills, and opportunity across the cybersecurity landscape. This report doesn't just show data, it shows impact, where underrepresented talent is thriving, where barriers still exist, and how organizations can turn insight into action. We'll unpack the findings, talk about the incredible work that's happening inside BGH, and explore what it means to truly break barriers and build talent in cybersecurity. Rebekah, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Rebekah, before we get into the study and its findings, please tell us more about BGH and how your personal journey led you to become such a big part of this amazing organization.
Black Girls Hack is a nonprofit, training-focused nonprofit. I said nonprofit two times. I'm just that excited about it. That is intends and endeavors and does, because the great Yoda says, "Do or do not. There is no try," to increase diversity in cybersecurity and provide equitable access to opportunities in cybersecurity. And that in of itself brings me joy and excites me. As far as I kind of led myself off the thing. What was the actual question before I start giving you extra answers?
Oh, you're fine. So, just kind of a little bit more about your personal journey and how did you become such a big part of this amazing organization?
Okay. Me specifically, yeah, we could talk for hours. All right. So picture it back in 1980. No. Um, I, growing up, I always tell people this or whatever. My plan was to become a lawyer. I was going to go into politics. Yikes. I still have some interest there, but pivot occurred, and I was working for the Rangers, and I was working in the mailroom. I figured that I would, first I started as a seasonal employee, and we went to the World Series in 2010 and 2011. I was like, hey, I want to do this full time. I don't know what specifically, but I like this organization and I want to do something here.
Sure.
How do I kind of find my place in this world? Um, and so one of the best ways that I could do that was getting a position in the mailroom. And so I kind of went to each department and saw what everyone was doing and like, okay, do I fit here? Do I fit there? Which is something I guess is kind of a bit of a foreshadowing for the folks that we assist in our membership at BGH. Sometimes it's such a wide pool and there's so many different things to choose from. That in of itself can be daunting of like, where do I focus? Anyway, opportunity presented itself in the IT department. And I started as a customer service coordinator for IT. Because basically, I answered the phone for that for help desk. And then I was like, this is fun. I would like to challenge myself more. And then I would be like, hey, Greg, I see what you're solving. Can I come with you? Can I do this? And he was kind and affable. I was like, sure. And so that was fantastic too. I have so many people who gave me the opportunity. When I expressed interest, they supported it. And started in IT. Then I was like, hey, how can I immerse myself? What are some things that I need to learn? Where do we see the future going? And my manager at the time was like, hey, have you heard about cybersecurity? And I was like, yeah, loosely. I watched Leverage. Um, and he kind of shares the different podcasts to listen to and things like that. And the more I learned, the more I wanted to advance. And I got on Twitter and I was like, hey, who can I follow? Who can I emulate? And that's when I saw Tanisha Martin, founder of BGH, also Mary Galloway, founder of Cyber Jitsu. There were so many awesome examples of people that I could uh, basically copy paste, and I feel like that's okay to do at the start. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery,
Sure.
right? When I was trying to figure out what to do, I wanted to see some boxes that I could check and kind of follow along, and then from there I can, go off. Not go off, yep, but like go off on my own. Um, and so that's kind of how I got started. And I joined BGH as a member. It was, hey, you have study groups, you have resources. I could use some of those. Thanks.
Sure.
Um, and then again, as people have fed into me, I've always been raised that if you benefit, you should give back. If somebody cooks me a meal, I'm going to wash the dishes. If there's, I feel there's, that's the cost that you pay and willingly for the things that you receive. And so I wanted to volunteer with BGH since I had directly benefited, and it just kind of grew from there. After signed up, I was like, yeah, I'll volunteer. Then Speech had also mentioned that she's looking for additional folks for leadership. And I thought about it, but then I was like, who am I?
Yeah.
I'm but a plebe. I have, I don't know if I could be in a director or a leadership position. I won't do it. But on a whim, I sent her a message on Slack and I was like, hey, if it wasn't for this imposter syndrome, I probably would have applied for a leadership position. And she was basically like, imposter syndrome be darned. Let's have a meeting. Let's talk about what it is that you're doing, what you want to do. What's your world domination plan is skill fit. And I had just finished reading The Phoenix Project. And so I was like, this path makes sense. I'm going to go into operations. I eventually want to be a COO. I think we need more people who view IT as a core competency and can speak to what people are experiencing, et cetera. So anyway, I was just hyped up on that. I was like, that's what I want to do. He's like, okay, great. We have a operations role, and that's where we're going to put you. And it just kind of grew steadily from there. I was like, I don't really know exactly what I'm supposed to do. She was like, well, look it up.
Yeah.
What is I'm supposed to require? And so I was like, okay. I built out what the job description would be. She was like, identify the things that you can do immediately and some of the things that you can grow into. And that's what we started doing. I was like, inch by inch, row by row,
Yeah.
it's like, I'm gonna do
Yeah.
this thing and then that. And then as I accomplished each of the tasks that were set before me, I was given more responsibility, which, hey, sometimes that's a catch 22.
Yeah.
But it ended up being a good thing. And then became COO because we had a current COO that I was working with, and she was kind and magnanimous and was like, hey, she allowed me to do as much as I was interested or had the bandwidth to do, which was great because a lot of times people learn by experience, which I'm
Yeah.
sure we'll get into as we talk today. And maybe I think it was about a year in time, what is time? But it
Yeah.
was after a while, she was like, she stepped aside so that I could be COO. She was like that I was doing majority of the work already or the skills and
Sure.
the tasks or whatever that were needed. And so with her support and with the board approval, I became COO and I've been doing that for the past few years and then recently transitioned into the CEO role. That was a lot. I apologize. I'll stop and take water there.
No, but that's great. And I think it's just so cool to kind of hear your story and to kind of how you kind of got in kind of a little unconventionally, but kind of just that curiosity. It sounds like really kind of just help kind of you keep itching away. And then I think really too, I think it speaks to the power of community. It sounds like you really just kind of were able to find wonderful people that were willing to help and share and kind of expose you to a little bit more and a little by little kind of getting you just to do more and then more and then more. And then here you are now at the top. So, like, literally started from the bottom, now you're here.
Starting from the bottom, now we're here. Like literally, because the mailroom was in the basement.
Yeah,
But
I would imagine.
Like the classic story of you're rewarded with more work.
Yeah.
yeah. It's like success. Here you go.
But no, I mean, I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but it sounds like, the power of community. What have you learned related to that in helping people not just enter cyber, but stay in it? I think that's something that BGH does really well, that it's a great opportunity for people who are new in the field, but I think those who are mid to senior level, and we definitely saw that in the study that we did, that it's not just for entry level people, but having that sense of community really helps you grow and stay in the field.
Right. It's good to have support in
Yeah.
anything, right? The world life, if you're paying any kind of attention, can be a bit of a beatdown. And so to have people who just hear you, who
Mhm.
care about you, who see you,
Mhm.
there's value in that. Um, And so I think just on that level, that matters. But then when someone is transitioning into a new role, that brings its own stressors and its own things. And so sometimes I think there are so many folks who are I'm giving very much like avatar vibes.
It's a
Like,
light.
there are so many people who are committed to helping people get in to cybersecurity. Hey, I just want you to get this job. And sometimes it's tied because they're an influencer or whatever, and there's a financial aspect for them of like, hey, if you sign up, Ponzi scheme or pyramid, whatever, I get a benefit or whatever. And then there are some people who genuinely care and they just want people to get access because it can be a life changing switch and opportunity. But once people get started, that's not it. You don't just stay on that first day of the job, you hopefully you grow and develop and everything else. And so it helps when there are people who can grow and develop with you. As you learn more, I can't,
Mhm.
there are so many times I've gone to conferences or just had conversations with people where there's been a benefit from just commiseration of like, hey, did you see what so and so? Yeah. Yeah, me too. It's like, well, our business objectives say that and I'm keeping it generally nondescript because obviously
Sure,
this
sure.
does not apply to any organization that I've ever worked on. This is
Mhm.
just, I would say IT people are like bartenders and priests. We hear everyone's secrets. But just knowing that the day to day struggles and things that people are seeing, both personally and professionally, whether it's I'm working nonstop, but my boss doesn't see it, I'm not getting a raise. I'm expected to instant response folks are on all the time.
Sure,
And it's like,
sure.
I'm tired. I haven't had a
Yeah.
vacation. And so those are different things that people can express and then someone understand. You can speak to your family member because there's some things that translate across all verticals and uh,
Industries, yeah.
industries and everything. But then there are some things that are specific to what it is that you are doing and to have someone who there's already a shorthand. Like I'm
Sure.
sure with the three of you, you've been doing this for a couple episodes, at least a few episodes now.
Yeah.
You work together. There's a shorthand that if Jeff, I'm sure if you were to say, Will and Tasha already know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
right? And that helps when you don't have to set the context and everything else.
Absolutely.
And so that's encouraging from just a person to person standpoint. But yeah, the community is what I love the most
Yes.
because it's a holistic support. It's both
Mhm.
personal, it's professional, it's technical. Hey, fellow nerd, here's something that I learned about threat modeling. Can I share it? Yes, please. I'm equally excited about this nerd thing that you're excited
Yeah.
about. And so it's good to have support, and a full faceted support in both what you're learning, what you're doing, what you're experiencing, how what you're learning is impacting what you do, how what you do impacts how you live, etc. So
Absolutely.
that's what I love the most about our community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like really evident in the culture of the Black Girls Hack community and the membership as well, and things like even like SquadCon, right? I haven't had the pleasure to join SquadCon in person yet, but the awareness around it and kind of the culture around that community aspect, and just kind of knowing Tanisha really well, like what you guys really instill in that cultural drive of it being a member and a Black Girls Hack community member. And you don't have to be a Black girl to be part
Right,
of that community.
right.
You can be white, you can be a guy, it doesn't matter. But I think the culture is kind of really welcoming and
Mhm,
open and authentic. And I think there's a lot of value in taking an approach like that.
It's really helpful to have a community to kind of help chart your own path
mhm,
and kind of what you want to do. I remember when I first started getting into it because I got into it just because my dad was a big cyber guy, and he was very much like, well, you could do this or this or this. And there was a lot of like I had to go and research, like just trying to figure out what I wanted to do in particular was just such a, like big
Daunting.
research,
Yeah.
kind of effort, right? And so that, and then also like, yeah, having a community of like-minded people, at least for me, it's helped me learn quicker and like, just better, I guess. Even like with say like very data sciencey stuff, I have a little
mhm.
circle of friends who we all kind of like will touch base and be like, hey, like what are you working on? And hey, there's this really cool thing, and like that kind of stuff. And so especially the aspect of community is just so invaluable. So it's just, oh man, it's so good. Yeah.
100%. And even with, I think sometimes people think that you're just supposed to know, okay, what do you want to do? Cybersecurity. Let's get a little bit more specific. As you mentioned,
Yeah.
there's so many different things that you can do. And then I think there's a little bit of a desperation for some folks where it's like, I need to get a job that is future proof that, and people say this is where the opportunity is. I'm willing. So just tell me what I need to do so that I can start making money now. Right. And that's a fair question
Yeah.
and desire. And then there are some people of like, well, I'm open to doing anything. This is where I have a general interest, but what I just I want to be a pen tester. That's it. Okay, so tell me the one book I need to read, the one test I need to take, and then I'll get started. But then there's some people who get started. We do bring a hacker to work day. We have folks who are in various roles. We have SOC auditors or folks who are threat modelers, application security, whatever. People who are in sales and cybersecurity because that's an option as well. And they just talk about what their path was and what they're doing. And one gentleman said he was like, "Hey, I want to be blue team. It's all about defense for me based on how I got started. This is what I want to do." And then the more he learned, the more he did, he was like, "Nah, that's not it. I want to be more on the offensive side, what have you." And I think that's the other good part of community of knowing or having support in that it's okay if you change your mind. It's okay if what you learn informs updated decisions backed by data. When you learn different things, that's the whole point of gathering
Yeah.
these data points, right? So that it can inform the next decision that you make. And I think sometimes, just like how you mentioned, it could be daunting. It
Mhm.
can be, I think sometimes they put extra pressure on themselves of like, well, I've already done this, so I have to stay the course. Or I've been doing this and it hasn't worked out the way that I expect. That's when, someone else can say, "Hey, no, I thought I was going to be on this path. I thought I was a GRC girly." And
Mhm.
then I started with compliance and I was like, that's not exactly the path that I wanted. And that's okay.
Mhm.
But the
Yeah.
things that you learn, like when I started with my most recent company, I started on the compliance team, and everything
Mm.
that I learned helped inform when I moved over to the infrastructure and security team. I was a better
Interesting. Yeah.
collaborator for that
Yeah.
team. You know what I'm saying? There are different things that you consider. So I think it's okay to have, it's beneficial to have different perspectives and feedback from folks to let you know that it's okay if you chart your own course. It's okay if you pivot. It's okay if you adjust.
Yeah, no, I think, great points there. And I think that kind of is a perfect segue for us to kind of get into the actual study and the data behind it. But I definitely think that is one of the things that we were hoping to collect with this study is we did ask the participants to identify what functional area that they're working in cybersecurity and to be able to get to know them a little bit more about their professional experience, their education experience, and then, of course, their experience in Black Girls Hack and what programming, specifically the training programs that they take advantage of, and kind of just getting an understanding of their experience as members or supporters, or even some actually weren't involved yet formally, but they still participated in the survey. And I think this was a good way to kind of gauge maybe what they could be interested in. But majority of the participants were members, and I think it was just really important to gather that data and to be able to part of the study had a self-assessment where we asked them to rate how confident their perceived proficiency was across these 60 different competencies that were aligned back to the NIST-NICE framework. And being able to have these individuals rate themselves and then even do some data analytics and comparison of, okay, these are the competencies that they rated themselves higher in or lower in, and then tying it back to their functional area. I think it was really interesting because in these certain functional areas we were able to say, okay, these are like the main competencies that you should be proficient in. And I think, for these individuals getting their results back, it could point some things because, like, to your point, maybe they weren't working yet and they're students and they're interested in this particular, GRC or, whatever functional area it might be, but their confidence in some of these competencies and the proficiency levels that they have aren't where they need to be. And so it gives them the opportunity to identify, okay, I need to do some more learning and training with this, or maybe they're competent in other things and their proficiency in other areas that they didn't even realize. And then it can give them an idea of, well, maybe, I thought I wanted this, but maybe I can go this way. And I think it was just really telling. And I think that there was so much there, but and I feel like now I'm going on a tangent. But I think, with the cyber talent study, I guess, like, we did this partnership earlier this year, and now we're going to be, publicizing everything. But what was kind of your hope with doing this study and like the partnership that we did? Like, what were some of your goals, and what were you hoping to achieve from it, from the Black Girls Hack perspective?
Exactly what we did, which is
Yeah.
encouraging. To measure impact, definitely want to. I can, and I tend to speak to more of the people things of I've had great conversations, and this is the feedback that I've gotten, and that's great. But I
Mhm.
want to be able to provide, especially when I'm having conversations with stakeholders, with potential funders, because we are a nonprofit, to make sure that we can measure the impact.
Mhm.
I also wanted to make sure that we could identify our strengths. I want to know what it is that we're doing well so
Yeah.
we can keep doing it. But then I also wanted to make sure that we, excuse me, identified any gaps of,
Mhm.
and not even taking it as a, oh man, this is something that we're doing wrong. It's more of a, oh man, here's something that we could potentially do better.
Exactly.
And so to identify any of those gaps in what it is that we're offering, um, or what it is that our members need, because sometimes
Mhm.
it's neither of those things. It's not something that you're doing well or not doing. It's something that wasn't even on your radar to do. So we want to make sure that whatever we offer with BGH, it is proactive for what we're hearing in the industry and everything that'll benefit our members, but then also uh, responsive to what it is that our members need. And so being able to identify where those perceived strengths were, identify any of those barriers, and then also to use all of that to inform and guide our future programming, because it's not to say I'm going to do this because this is what I think you need. It's do tell me what you need, because that's what we're here for. We're here to be a resource. That's our why.
Mm.
And that's all the information we were able to gather and leverage through this partnership and this study.
So I was thinking about again, we're talking about bringing all of these sort of data points into essentially, it's almost establishing. I wouldn't say credibility in a way because it's like credibility is already there, but there is something about hard numbers that
Mhm.
Right.
people really like to see. And part of one of the measures, at least that I was particularly taken with, especially in the study, was that across the board, there was this huge bump in confidence after even just one of the training programs was taken. So essentially, when we were kind of doing our background research on the data itself, we actually found that I believe, and I have the number somewhere, I think it was 2.1. Because again, this was on a 0 to 5 scale, right? It was a mean of about 2.1 for the baseline. But then some would reach about, like say for BGH SANS, Offensive Security Academy. And then I think it was the blue team training program and the red team as well. Those were kind of the big ones that were like sitting around the 3.3, 3.4 sort of range for the mean, which is actually really good, right? Because we talk about as you go up, at least with this scaling metric, is that the more and more you're going up, there is that kind of exponential of like, okay, I'm a novice, okay, now I'm a little experienced, okay, now I can like do things by myself, okay, now I'm like, and it just keeps going up like that. And so I think that was one of the biggest things, and having those sensors and meters to really be like, okay, where is everybody at now, and kind of where are we seeing those bumps, because this is just an approach that I think a lot of people should have. Personally, I'm totally not speaking from any sort of bias at all, but that was, I'd say, probably the best thing that I was like, when I was looking, I was like, ooh, I just love when there's just a sharp trend and you're like, oh, okay, well, it's right there, it's just looking
Right.
at us. um but I would say that was kind of one of the big things, is like, especially the training programs seem to have kind of emboldened a lot of people when it came to their confidence in cyber. And a lot of those big jumps were actually, they were in the technical stuff, right? Because again,
Mhm.
when we had all of these competencies, they were, there's leadership, there's professional, there's organizational, some that could be considered like, softer skills. And then we
Mhm.
have our hard technical.
Mhm.
And especially in kind of the threat analysis and offensive security, like those kind of competencies were the ones that were seeing the most bumps.
Mhm.
And so that, in my opinion, was like, okay, this is really cool, right? I'm like, I'm a big fan of this. And then also we were cross-referencing for experience to make sure that it wasn't just like, okay, well, maybe you're already advanced and you decided to take a training program. It's like, okay, no, we're going to try and find that balance of, okay, you're still kind of on the up and up, but you've taken a training program. How does that kind of reflect? And
Mhm.
so it was stuff like that that I found was really cool. So I Big
It
fan.
makes me
Big
happy
fan.
to hear your joy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, I think that's a really good point. Like, we were able to compare, people who have participated in the programs versus who hadn't, members like free or paid versus non-members, and just across the board, BGH members and those who participate in the training programs did have higher confidence across, I think it was 52 of the 60 competencies. So that's a really, great number there. And it was just really cool to see, like, kind of to Will's point, we did focus a lot on the technical, but it was also those soft skills as well. And I think that just speaks to BGH's programming, that it's a really holistic approach. And it's kind of not just the technical stuff, but also those soft skills as well. That, of course, translates in no matter what functional area that you're going to. Be working in cyber or not, kind of just your day to day life and things like that. And of course, there were some opportunities that were, identified in like those abstract technical skill challenges, like modeling and simulation, mathematical reasoning, software development. But those few specific competencies, I think to your point, Rebecca, it's just kind of like, okay, like this is again, we have the numbers, we have the data, but this is an opportunity. Maybe we can try and incorporate some of these competencies in some of the existing programs that we have, or looking into, what other opportunities that there are.
Yeah. And not all of them, some of them are going to inform like cohorts and dedicated training programs that we do next year. Stay tuned, folks. More to come. Um, but then all of them, it also informs some of the immediate things that we could take of like, as I mentioned, to bring a hacker to work day. We had, I think it was last month, Robert Hurlbut, who works at Torion, he did space cybersecurity and threat modeling, because one of the things that you identified in the study was threat
Yeah.
modeling was an area that folks wanted or required more skilling and opportunities in.
Yeah.
And so that was something that I was armed with when I met him at a conference. We got talking. He mentioned threat modeling. I was like, aha! I know that that's a need. Let's go. And so that helps too, because there are sometimes where there are, and I'm very grateful and appreciative of it, people who are willing to help, and they're like, how can I help? What would be of value? And so when we can have dedicated places of like, hey, this is an area where we need the most support, or this is where we need more opportunities, and then we can help focus and guide folks. And even if they themselves don't have that specialty, they can help connect us with folks who do. So that's another thing that was beneficial to immediately be able to do and put in place for our members.
Yeah.
One of the things I thought was really interesting, I'll say from the report, but even though it's not just exclusively related to the report that we did with Black Girls Hack, it just was highlighted there, and we saw that trend across this trend I'm about to mention across other data sets as well. But when we first took a look at the results, we did notice that a lot of the early career or just coming out of college folks seem to have overconfidence in some skill sets.
Mhm.
And that wasn't just exclusive again to Black Girls Hack, but I think highlighted a really important piece for us as we kind of think about, you don't quite know what you don't know yet. You know what I mean? Especially when you compare that result to somebody who's in their mid-level or senior career, where they're like, actually know the world of encryption a lot more than I thought I did back then, and I don't know shit. Like, whereas you might come out of a college program and really feel ready to tackle the world, and you're kind of ready to go on everything. So I only bring that up just because I think it's a really important piece as we continue to analyze data across different levels of career sets, and having that context of exposure, what
Mhm.
you've been exposed to in your experience that may lead you to believe your skill sets are at one point or another point across that spectrum. So I thought that was really interesting, and
Mhm.
to see that shift as we kind of looked at the more senior level roles.
Agreed. I had highlighted a specific blurb from the study that we have this junior participants reported the highest confidence in emotional intelligence, communication, and critical thinking. There's like, I feel like I could preach a sermon off of this. There's so many different points, but I'll read the whole thing and then we can do it piece by piece. But then it was like, this may reflect early exposure, as you just mentioned, um, to career readiness training, digital collaboration tools. And then the confidence dipped at mid-level because, you've been kicked a couple times and it's like, particularly for personal skill. Right, reality
Yeah.
hit. And then it rebounds slightly by the senior stage. So then with the other part that I thought was interesting is that the gaps, at least as you all identified it, between the junior and senior self ratings were not as large as expected. Um, and then the thought there was potentially due to higher baseline confidence among newer professionals or increased self critique among senior members. So I feel like there's so many different things. The emotional intelligence and communication and critical thinking is so important. And I think sometimes it's encouraging to me that the folks who are just now getting started or whatever are making sure that that is part of their um, skill set and things that they're focusing on, which also informed Brain Hack the Workday. We're going to do hacking emotional intelligence November 3rd. Put it on
Ah,
the calendar, folks. Um, because I think those things help support your growth and development, right? And one of the things that you mentioned earlier about getting in, but then staying in,
mhm.
and having that emotional intelligence and being able to think critically. Things change, tools change, but if you can adapt various in various situations and work with different people, that'll help, I think, with some of the staying power in the roles. But the part about the confidence dipping in the mid level, kind of what you said of like, you don't know what you know, when you don't know what you don't know exactly. And then the more you learn, the more you realize, the less that you know.
Yeah.
Um, but for the confidence dipping in the interpersonal skills, not necessarily in the
Mm.
technical skills, that
Yeah.
I thought was interesting as well. And um, it's interesting to see, and I want to do a deeper dive too on like direct feedback from some of our mid level folks. Like
Mhm.
obviously we want to provide support and leadership training because as that identifies that they'll need. But it's like, so what's going on? Is it
Yeah.
is it the work itself? Is
Sure.
it the people you're doing? Is it that you expected the opportunity role to be one thing and then once you got in
Mhm.
it, it was something else?
Mhm.
And that's why with our three tenets, the educate, empower, and prepare. The
Mhm.
educate is the programming and everything that we've done, and some of the programs that Will mentioned as far as blue team training, red team training, whatever. The empower part is the emotional intelligence, the communication, the critical skills, the confidence in what you can do and who you are. Because, and I think it's important to say both of those because what you can do can change. So
Mm.
don't just have the confidence in what you can do. If you have the confidence in who you are, then you have the capability to do additional things as they arise. Um, but then the prepare part is where that part comes in as far as, hey, we've seen this at some time. Once you, the first hurdle isn't just getting in to the cybersecurity. Once you hit that mid level, you might hit another barrier.
Yeah.
Confidence may dip, challenges may arise, but you still
Mhm.
have ongoing support to make it to the next level. And then the same thing for the senior folks for the fact that their self critique was stronger. And I don't know if it's I'm armed with the wisdom of what's it? Ask me how I got these scars,
Yeah.
They also need support as well because the other thing about making sure that we have a good cycle, I guess, with BGH is that we want to support people up, but then we want those people to then be empowered to then feedback and support folks as well. And if
Sure.
they're burnt out and giving up on the world and themselves, they're less likely to do that. We want to make sure that it's something that's sustaining.
Yeah, I think there's so much there, and I think at the end of the day, it's that importance of making sure that at each career stage, junior, mid, and senior, that they're getting the support that they need. But I do think it's so many different factors. I do think kind of like just nowadays, like these young folks coming right out of college, they are coming in with like certifications. They've done,
Uh-huh.
all these CTFs. They've done like it's like a different this newer generation. They tend to just they're so motivated and it's so competitive. And I think they're kind of just coming into the field with more knowledge, more experience, more credentials kind of on their resume that I do think that it's a little bit of overconfidence, but it's also just like the exposure. They've kind of probably been, already had a couple internships under their belt. They've, done just more coming into it where I think that, the people who are maybe, at mid and senior levels now, when they were kind of getting in, I don't think it was the same. That kind of level of competitiveness and just being so over credentialed. And then I think there's a part of it that reality does hit. And when you start actually working in, a field, or maybe it's just, you're working less with other people and you're working remote, or there's just so many factors that I think it's just so interesting that I would love to get more data on that. And I'm really kind of to your point, like speaking to more people at the mid level and the senior level. But I think also with time, is it that imposter syndrome that comes in? Is it just, we're so hard on ourselves as women, like, and that, criticism there, there's just so many aspects of it that I think it's really interesting that I would love to, do a whole study just on that.
I think also some of it is informed by the industry currently.
Mm,
People who are practitioners, people who are in positions of leadership, recruiters, everything else, because we have sold a bill of goods to some folks who are either in school or just now entering cybersecurity and say, hey, if you just do this thing, you'll be
mhm.
good.
Sure, sure.
So then if they're in school, as you mentioned, because I'm seeing more and more folks who are getting all of these different things, like a couple students who've gotten their security plus in high school and doing all
Mhm.
these things proactively. So they've done the thing that people said that they should do for them to be
Yeah,
successful. And then they go to enter the workforce and are met with limited success. And that's not everyone's story, but it's some people's story.
sure,
And
sure.
so I think part of the overconfidence is, hey, if you do this, that, and the other, you'll be successful. All right, I did this, that, and the other. I'm ready for my success. Where is it?
Yes.
So let me pick it up. And then some of the beat down is what we were told, because sometimes my imposter syndrome is self-informed. I get in my own way, but some of it is informed by the world that I navigate.
Sure.
There's a reason why if a door is locked, that's why I'm not getting in. Not
Mm.
because I can't open the door. I don't have the key and the door is locked. Now, hacker mindset, I'm going to find a window. I'm going to try to get through the doggy door in the back.
That's right, that's right.
But some of these things are informed by lived experiences. And I think, like you said, to the mid-level thing, it's kind of like, okay, I finally got in here. I had to
Mhm.
scratch and, do all these different things. And so sometimes it's contradictory to
Mhm.
what is advertised. And I think that can also inform some of the dip in the confidence skill.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I think, part of it, especially on those like interpersonal sort of like, skills and things like that, it could also be, you've now worked in this thing and there's been more high stakes, I guess, right? Because if you're siloed in like, oh, there's a CTF, like it's a competition, yes, but also it's different when company assets and data are on the line, right?
Mm.
And there's all these things. And so especially if you're like an incident response or something, your understanding of communication under pressure break down.
Yeah.
And so now all of a sudden you're faced with, you've been losing sleep. It's like the weekend and it's like so nice out and you really want to be outside and it's like a holiday weekend and everybody's angry and everybody is tired. And that's, that could be a big thing when they're like, oh, hey, what about my emotional intelligence? You're like, well, I remember yelling at Jeff for so long because of, and it's all that kind of thing, right? Um, I wonder how people's confidence would change when being immersed in a community like Black Girls Hack and being able to talk with people and
Mhm.
really truly understand how deep the pool is, right?
Mhm.
Because for me, even I would like go to DEF CON and stuff, and it's very, very casual. And I'd be like talking, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is great, and I understand everything, and this is da 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 da. And then there would be these guys who are like in the industry for like 30 years or something. They're getting really deep into it, and I'm like, okay, like I now am understanding because I'm not following anything, right? I'm like, so sometimes again we're talking about and I think that's one of the big core strengths is the community helps level each other up, right?
Mhm.
And part of me is like, again, I'm always like, okay, how do we quantify it? How do we put this all down into hard numbers? Because those intangible connections of community is so invaluable. But I'd say we've already gotten so deep, but there's always, you could always dive deeper or you could always get a little more, I guess, I don't know, into the intangible, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's probably, got to be a lot of surveys, a lot of, whatever. But yeah,
No, and it's an important piece, Will, 'cause,
those
like,
kind of things.
it's on our list of trying to figure out
Yep.
culture. How do we quantify culture and bring those data points back into related to your workforce,
Mhm.
right? Is because culture is retention, culture is employee satisfaction, culture is belongingness, right? But how do you quantify those aspects of culture in a way that we can start to correlate it back to skills and attrition rates and all those other things that are really important. So I love that you brought that up, Will. When you figure it out, counting on you to figure all that out.
Yeah. No, I think, just great points. And I think that's why also within this the survey that we did give the participants, there was total of 443 participants for this study, just to give the listeners an idea. And in addition to some of the things that I mentioned, that we asked them about their work experience, their training program participation, one of the questions was an open-ended question, just kind of asking for their feedback of like, what do you want from Black Girls Hack, as far as what could help you in terms of support, resources, or services, or just different things that would help you with your career journey and kind of professional development. And I think that was really interesting to have as well, that we had, quantitative data, but also that qualitative data of just asking them directly, like, what do they want? What do they need? And I think, there were a variety of different things, as far as just more hands-on training, some of the, soft skill continued development that, we've kind of been talking about as well. But it was just a really great opportunity to kind of hear directly from the members what they want. And I think, you alluded a little bit to it, Rebekah, that, with this study, it wasn't just about the great data points. And of course, there was an opportunity to gloat a little bit and to see, how great the members are doing, how high their confidence is, how the training programs were actually having some alignment with the relevant competencies, and same thing with the functional areas of, if they're working in these specific functional areas, they're confident in the relevant functional areas as well, the soft skill development, all of these wonderful things, and then the opportunities for improvement. But um, what kind of, from your perspective, those data points leading to action. And you kind of alluded to a little bit about some of the Bring Your Hacker to Work days, specifically having people who can talk about these related competencies. But please, tell us a little bit more about, I think when we sent you the original draft, it was like perfect timing. You guys had like a leadership meeting like around the same time, and just
Mhm.
how your team has kind of ingested all of this information. And what have you guys done as far as like with those early insights to help kind of inform change or actions, from the internal kind of Black Girls Hack
Yeah, because there
perspective?
was essentially 2 versions of this
Yeah,
report.
that's
A
right.
really
Right.
in-depth version for
That's right.
internal consumption,
Yeah.
right? And then there's, the extrapolation of key findings that will be available for the public to download.
Yeah.
Hopefully, in the next couple of days, we probably can post
Yeah.
it on our socials. Just just to kind of put that context there for you, Rebecca.
Right. Um, So yes, the timing of it was perfect. We were already asking those questions internally when we kind of identified like what was the impetus behind partnering with skillrex and doing this study. And so these were already questions that we were kind of asking ourselves. And then so to have the feedback and say there are some things that, um, as Will mentioned, just gave data points to gave hard numbers to what it was we were already thinking. So that was good. It
Mhm.
kind of confirmed what we were already online with. But then there were some things that was like, oh, okay, this is good to, as far as we build out this Q4 is kind of we're taking the time to assess and make sure that we have things in place, that not only that we can do, but that we can sustain. And what's informing what the new programming that we're going to be rolling out in 2026 is the feedback that we've received here with the study. So, like one of the things that we identified was to make sure, and this is from the study, embed leadership and business aligned competencies early in the member journey, right?
Mhm.
Because we want to make sure that we're setting our folks up for success. Um, Sometimes it's an oversimplification, but I always like to put things in terms that anyone could understand, regardless of where they are. There are so many people, you think about other fields and industries, who, or let's say sports, right? So many children who want to play, I want to be a basketball player. When they're
Mhm.
playing a pickup game outside, they practice that fourth quarter situation, 5 seconds on the clock. They hand me the ball, step in,
Mhm.
he scores, whatever else. They practice that. Or baseball, it's the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They've
Yeah.
already put themselves in that mindset of a high stress situation. How do I perform and step up to it? And that's before it's a child. You haven't even played college ball or whatever, and you're already practicing for what you're gonna do in a
Yeah.
major league thing. And I think part of that is making sure that as we bring folks on, and as you mentioned, there's multiple levels, and we need to make sure that we have programming that is identified for each of them. But for our entry level junior folks, it's not just to say, in the future, you will be a leader, whatever. Speak to them as though they are a leader now. Speak to those, build those skills and that confidence, build it, support it.
Mhm.
Sometimes confidence can be shallow and that it's like, why are you confident? I think I am. and that's enough. But if we educate, we give those skills, we align it with the various areas where we've identified that people already have those gaps, and we are going to do more software development. We are going to do more application security. There's more interest in AI. There's so many different specific call
Sure.
outs that people are needing that we will have dedicated cohorts to so that it's sustained support, but then also drop in opportunities, because that's
Mhm.
something else that we've identified that some of our folks are committed, they're willing, but they have full lives, they have full jobs. And so someone's working, 9 to 5 in marketing or what have you, and they want to transition in cybersecurity. We need to be able to have programming that they can do when they can do it.
Mhm.
Because the other part of the reason why people have that confidence, and as some of the potential boast and gloat things about BGH, is that it is that holistic support.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that has informed one, what it is that what we currently do that we need to keep doing, and then what we're going to plan for next year as well. The other thing, I'm excited about that opportunity to make our mentorship opportunities more robust. And then also with our partnerships, we have been strategic with, and that's some of the things that I guess people don't currently see right now, because it's the
Mhm.
quiet things of, hey, have you met Black Girls Hack? Let me tell you about it. A little bit
Yeah.
of glad handing. But it has helped us be strategic with the partners that we identify, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can
Mm.
leverage resources that they already have. Hey, you want more opportunities and hands on experience with network security? There are networking companies that have platforms that
Mhm.
provide training. And sometimes there's not a cost associated. It's just a matter of making the ask and connecting there. So those were
Yeah.
immediate things that we were able to do, conversations we were able to have, and then have that support in those conversations when we're speaking to those partners of like, here's the interest, here's the capability. We just need the additional support and resource for those folks to be successful. And some of it, I hope I don't sound too vague in my response. With the gala that we have this week, some of it is going to be outlined there, more with more specifics as to what we're going to see. I kind of have to do a little teaser.
Yeah.
This looks
I can't give
coming, and
away
then
all the secrets.
exactly.
No, but that's awesome, and that's exactly what we love to see, is turning insight into action. Each week that we have been doing this show, we like to share what we've learned for the week and something that we kind of came across. So, something that I actually learned this week came from an article that our good friend Simone Petrella was featured on a panel for the Uniting Women in Cyber conference, which actually Jeff got to attend in person and see that live. But the article was talking about the future of cybersecurity workforce and how it's shifting beyond degrees and certifications and placing more value on these durable skills. And just like what we were talking about, so I thought it was really kind of, timely. But those soft skills of emotional intelligence, critical thinking, and adaptability, and how those types of skills really stay relevant as technology and threats evolve in the field. And so I think it just was great highlight to just kind of hear, people talking about it on the panel at this event, and then for that to be captured again in this Forbes article, because I think that's exactly what we've been talking about with some of the results that we found with the cyber talent study that we conducted, and talking about some of the things that you just mentioned, Rebecca, as far as future opportunities and action items that as a organization the programming is going to incorporate, thinking about leadership at early levels and kind of finding ways to develop these particular skills at each career stage and through mentorship and different things like that, because it's really all about that holistic kind of whole person development. So I thought that was just perfect timing, that I had saw that that was shared, and just goes right into the study that we're talking about today. So that's something that I, came across this week. So I wasn't sure if anybody else wanted to share. I think Will, you might have had something.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely had some stuff. First of all, just wanted to apologize. I was training a model on the low, and it really bit me because it was like it's a
You
pretty
disappeared
big.
for a second, but you came
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, no, it literally was like you're completely out of memory. Like this, like all my GPU was just taken up, and I was like, oh my god. So I thought I could get
And
away
this
with
is
it.
why electricity prices are increasing. That
Yep,
moment right there.
exactly. And
No
so
worries.
it's like I
No
thought I
worries.
could get away with it, but my hubris, my
Yeah.
hubris. Um, So for me, there was a lot of stuff, a lot of like technical math stuff that would probably bore everybody, but
I don't think we have
I
time
got
for it.
really, you know, I'm like, we're not, we won't go into that, but I was, because again, I'm trying to, so I love competency frameworks, right? I love trying to find ground truth in things, right? How do we get like baselines that are objective and all these different things? So I came across this one article, and it was talking about kind of different archetypes of people and how they interact with competency frameworks on from an HR perspective, from an organizational perspective, and a lot of that was very interesting to me. Like there was a whole bunch of things of like, okay, well, AI might take out competencies, right? Like AI actually might literally chop off some competencies because they may become obsolete. While there was other things of like there's resistors to competency frameworks and stuff, and they'll be like active where they're like, oh, I'm non-compliant, I'm not gonna take your survey, I'm not gonna do anything like that. Or it'd be like passive where they're like, okay, I will, but I'm not gonna say anything too good, right? Like I'm gonna be, it's almost malicious compliance, right? And so a lot of those kind of things, that was kind of a big sort of vibe that I was on, and it was that one particular one. I believe it was called the competency based framework development and implementation, current and future perspectives, I think was the one. I'd love to like give links to this or something, but
Share it on
um
LinkedIn, tag skillrex, and
Yeah, we can do that.
yeah. So, but it was very much like, okay, well, we want to build frameworks around like don't just slot it into an HR system at the very end, which is what a lot of people like to do. It's like you have to build the framework along with and keeping in mind the HR system. So it's just stuff like that. I'm like, okay, this is really nice because I get really bogged down in the math and the numbers. I like seeing it from these big kind of sweeping organizational perspectives. So that was kind of my thing. Again, apologies for the hiccup. That was
You're fine.
yeah, again, I got way too carried away. So yeah.
math stuff. I'll be quick and short, and then we'll give Rebecca the last thought to share here. Mine is more subjective, and it's something that I think we are already been talking a lot about. But I had a recent conversation with a friend colleague over the last week who's on the job hunt, and it just that conversation reminded me of how much we are in this AI talent acquisition death spiral. But because and it's from all hands. The employers need to utilize AI to kind of cull through all of the resumes and make their life a little bit more efficient because it is overwhelming. Applicants though are leveraging AI, to apply to things and automatically apply to things, which, no harm, no foul there. Don't blame them for using it, but it's overloading systems, hence the need for employers to use AI to filter it out. And you kind of, either quickly get a rejection letter or it just goes into the endless pit of ether nothingness and you don't hear anything forever. And then I think on the agent side and the utilization of AI, the employers are kind of irritated with applicants that they're using AI, yet requiring AI skill sets in the requirements for the job. So it's like there's this really vicious right now. I feel like, especially in the cyber profession, of this AI spiraling with talent acquisition. I want to see a solution for it. I don't know what that solution is, but I do know I want to dive deeper into it in future episodes. So if anybody's listening who is on the applicant tracking side or talent acquisition side and has something to say, we'd love to have you on the show. Rebecca, take it away.
I do. One, Will, I think you need to have a t-shirt that it's made that says AI model on the low or something like that. That would sell. Two, I learned that if I plan for my lighting to give me some natural sunlight, it will counteract and work against me. Also, yesterday, George Finney, I heard him speak at in the cybersecurity summit, and he mentioned a lot of people say that people are the weakest link. And he was like, that's not accurate. People are the link. And to me, that reinforced sometimes, people kind of write off the emotional intelligence part and the people side. It's touchy feely. It doesn't matter. It does matter because it's people and we're at the heart of everything. And I think we need to have a return to humanity, caring about it, supporting it and encouraging it. And on that regard, tomorrow we actually have a gala in a Dallas-Fort Worth area. So if you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or drive like me and can get there within an hour or two, I definitely invite everyone to link up with your fellow humans as we celebrate the different things that BGH is working on and the things we aspire to do in the future.
Yes. Well, no, and I'm actually going to be there in person, and we're going to be able to actually share a little bit more about this study. But that is a wrap for episode 4 of the Cyber Talent Matrix. Again, a huge, huge thank you to our guest, Rebekah Skeete, and the entire Black Girls Hack team for their partnership and the incredible work that they're doing to build the next generation of cyber leaders. Again, the 2025 Cyber Talent Study reminds us that diversity is not a metric, it's a multiplier. And when we invest in representation and access, we strengthen the entire ecosystem. So stay tuned to find out more about this study. We will be sharing them, like we mentioned, at the Rise and Reign celebration gala, which takes place tomorrow in the Dallas, Texas area. And then we'll be sharing it publicly on our socials in the next couple of days. So that way you guys can actually download the report summary. But join us next time as we continue the journey to make the cyber workforce smarter, stronger, and more inclusive. If you haven't already, please follow me and my co-host on LinkedIn, follow SkillRex for updates, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep investing in your people because they are the heart of cyber.